Uh, hmm, sorry. You know, girls think they can control the world through their vagina, and a lot of guys, most guys, are hardwired to react a certain way around the girl and do certain things around the girl that are like pre-programming. It's pre-programming, and we're all programmed in some degree to how we deal with a woman or how a woman deals with a man. And they're like buttons installed that are pre-programmed, and they just push that button, and they know they're gonna get what they want, or they know they're gonna have no problem with the person they're dealing with. And sex sells, and sex is very powerful. And whether or not sex is involved doesn't matter. It's the innuendo of sex. It's the promise of sex. It's the allure of sex. It's not the actual sex. And like they say, sex is 99% in the brain and 2% in the body. And it's true because a man can't get it up unless he's into it mentally. Um, it's just impossible. And it's just, uh, and that's why people don't believe men get raped because they have to be into it mentally to even get it up. And where a woman doesn't. But uh, women, when they're young, they're taught to how to manipulate men to get what they want. And they do it throughout their whole life. And I think that's why women have a hard time with gay men because they don't react the way other men react. And they don't know where those buttons are on a gay man where they know they're on a straight man. Straight man, they know where the buttons exactly are and they know how to push and when to push them. And with a gay man, it changes that whole dynamic and they don't know how to deal with it. And they don't like it because it's something new. It's something they didn't train on. It's something um, alien to them and they don't like it. And that's why they get a lot of pushback. But, you know, they do, certain women have a good time with gay men because they don't have to worry about the sex. They don't have to worry about pushing those buttons. And they like the difference in the two types of men. And that's why a lot of women have gay friends. Uh, but it's still a different dynamic. They're treated differently. And, with the level of sex and the level of, of attraction is not there. And it changes their whole dynamic. If you're a straight man and you're not attracted to a woman takes that as an offense. They're like, "Oh, you don't like me? I'm not good enough." Good. No, first place they go is, "I'm not good looking enough," and they might be drop dead gorgeous, but they're a bitch. And you're like, "Yeah, you're gorgeous, but you're a bitch. I don't want to deal with you." And see, but they've gotten away with being a bitch for a long time, and most people will put aside the fact that they're a bitch just to get to sleep with them. And I understand a lot of beautiful women that are kind of bitchy, uh, in the sense that they get propositioned several times a day. Wherever they go, they get propositions, and guys line up trying to talk to them. And for them to respect the guy, it's harder because so many other guys have disrespected themselves in front of her, and she's not going to respect someone who disrespects himself. And they're looking for the guy that doesn't disrespect himself, and that's rare and that's hard to find. Uh, most guys are in it for one thing and one thing only, and once they get it, they're gone. And it's just I don't know. It's just we are pre-programmed on how we deal with the opposite sex, and a lot of it comes from our family, from our father, from our mother. You know, the most important parent in your life is the same-sex parent, and because if you're a man, it teaches you to. Your father taught you to be a man. If you're a woman, your mother taught you to be a woman. And when you don't have that, that's when you end up in problems. Um, I never had a father in my life, and it's just I never had a mother either because she was a covert narcissist. So I never had a mother either. And I used to say when I was young, I used to say I raised myself. I taught myself how to cook, otherwise I would have starved. Uh, you know, my mother's idea of cooking was to throw frozen chicken in a pan, throw it in the oven, and come back in a little while and see if it's done. And it was horrible. It was always burnt. It was horrible. So, but you can't tell her she's a bad cook. She thinks she's a good cook, and she's horrible. So, it's just um, it's hard to escape the programming of our youth. And like I'm a Generation X. I was born in '69, so I'm an old Generation X, and we were the forgotten age. We were the forgotten generation. Um, we were the ones that came home to a house that was empty. Most of our family was divorced, went through divorce. I went through two divorces. Um, and, it's just, uh, it was just the way we were raised. And it's good. I mean, Generation X are the ones that are running the world right now. And they they are much more resilient than any other generation. Um, when there's trouble, you want to look to a Generation X guy or girl to fix things because they'll know how to do it. Because they were never given things. They didn't have helicopter parents. Um, they had parents that weren't even there. And if something broke in the house, they didn't call a mechanic or a plumber. They fixed it themselves. And, you know, so with the different generations, it's hard because I know like Generation Z it's all about the internet and social media and screens, and it's just I feel sorry for these people. Like I said in one of my videos, the problem with you being bored is you weren't bored enough. I was bored many weekends, did absolutely nothing, just sat around and did nothing, and TV sucked on the weekends, so there was nothing to watch. There was only three channels to choose, and after Saturday morning cartoons were over, that was it. There was nothing on, and you had to find something to do. And today it's a totally different world as far as that respect. And I don't know that it's better. There's more TV out there. There's more shows to watch, but I don't know if it's better. But TV, television, and that's what the government is doing. They're telling you a vision, and what do they tell you in? They tell you in a program. They're programming your mind. It's a program, you know, and they have television listings of all the programs, and you choose the program you want to watch. And that's how you get brainwashed and manipulated into believing certain things. So the problem is a lot of people are watching the program of 24-hour news, and they're being persuaded into fearing the government, fearing society, and you know, and I know I'm moving away from my original topic, which was girls and manipulating the button, but it's all part of the brainwashing. It's all part of the programming of how men and now like women, uh, you have to meet someone on an app. If you don't meet someone on an app, you're not going to go up to a girl in a restaurant, or and bars don't really exist anymore. Uh, and it's just very hard to meet someone if you don't meet them in an app, whether it's a girl or a guy. And the problem with the apps is, you meet nightmare people, serial killers and stuff like that. So, or rapists, you meet nightmare people, and it's all part of the programming that this is normal. You know, if you meet a nightmare person, just get through it and move on to the next person. And maybe you do, maybe you don't. It depends on the situation, especially if it's a serial killer. You might not have another situation to get through. So it's very precarious. And, you know, I think the problem with today is you went up to some girl in a store or a restaurant, you're afraid that they would scream or make a scene or act like, because it's foreign to them. Um, they're not approached in that way as much anymore because everybody's doing it through an app, and I think this is changing the whole dynamic of dating.